Hey everyone, I'm Ian Douglas, the author of the website techinterview.guide. I do live streams every Sunday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern about topics relevant to interview preparation for the tech industry. I occasionally record longer Q&A sessions, and I've started to break those into smaller videos to post. And there'll be information at the end of this video about how to get in contact with me if you have additional questions. Let's get to it. How would I interview for a job online? So this kind of contrasts the difference between what's it like to do an interview in person and what's it like to do an interview over like teleconference software like Zoom or Google Meet or something like that. A lot of the interviews are going to be really the same thing. It's just you're not there to actually shake somebody's hand, and it's a little bit harder to read body language because everything's two-dimensional on the screen. And usually it's just, kind of like, as much of my head that you can see right now. So you don't get to see like, am I crossing my arms or not? You can't really tell unless you actually pay attention to my shoulders, right? That my shoulders kind of come in a little bit if I cross my arms. You can't tell whether I'm crossing my legs. You can't tell whether you can kind of tell if I'm sitting forward in my chair a little bit or not, but like, it's really hard to read body language over a teleconference software. But aside from that, the interview's pretty much going to be the same. I think the main things to take into consideration there are things like what kind of bandwidth do you have at home? Do you have really good upload and download speeds so that the video is nice and crisp, or at the very minimum that the audio is going to play through? If you have the option in your browser, in your software to say, give more bandwidth to my audio than my video, do that. Because it's more important that they can hear your answers than see your face like super clearly and see that I've got freckles or not. It should be less about my freckles and more about the answers that I give to their questions. So aside from, the presentation side of things, have really good bandwidth, have good lighting, good kind of background kind of thing. I mean, I know my background here is pretty dark. You don't have to have a super dark background. I would say don't have your back to a window if sunlight is coming in the window, because having a really bright light or something super bright behind you could make it really hard to see your face, depending on the type of webcam that you have or type of camera that you have. So try to do it where the light is actually shining at you so they'll be able to see you better. And even if you need like your own lights or something to set up, but make sure that you're well lit and that your audio is really good. It doesn't mean you have to go out and spend money on a good microphone or anything like that, but just, make sure that if you're using a laptop, that you're maybe plugging in like a headset for a microphone or something like that. Test all of it ahead of time. If they're doing the call over Zoom, start Zoom yourself, like way ahead of time, and record yourself on all the different microphones, and then play back that recorded video and figure out which microphone sounds best. Like you can plug one in and go, this is my headset microphone, and this is my, my Bluetooth headpiece microphone, and this is my, really nice quality studio microphone, or this is my webcam with its microphone. And then play that back and then just listen to your own voice and go, actually, I really like the quality of my voice when it's through this microphone. Then use that microphone. Same thing with audio. You want to be able to hear them. So I generally recommend headphones of some kind. It doesn't have to be like the great big things that sit on your ears. They can just be like regular sort of wired headphones. I don't really have a good set here to show. I mean, I kind of have this set. It's a little buried under some heavy stuff that I can't lift with this arm very well. You can get just a wired set of headphones or something like that. But plug them in, try them, make sure they work, and then set them aside so that they don't get lost. Like put them like right next to your computer or something like that, so that when it's time for the interview, about 10 minutes ahead, plug that stuff in, do another quick Zoom call with yourself, record like, yes, my microphone's working, or some of them will have like a thing where you say, test my audio, and it records a few seconds of your microphone and then plays it back. Make sure you can hear yourself. And then when you join the call, make sure you're unmuted, that you're ready to go, you're prepared, you have your notebook ready, stuff like that. So when you're interviewing for a job online, my tendency is to just type notes. That way I can kind of keep looking at the camera so it looks like I'm paying attention to them. And I'll generally have a window where their face is in one window right near the camera. And so what you don't want to do is you don't want to move that window down to the bottom of the screen. And so while you're watching them, you're kind of talking to them on this screen over here, but the camera's up over here. And so you need to kind of imagine that you're making eye contact with them. And so you need to look at the camera so that it looks like you're talking to them. And so what I would do is I would actually move that window right underneath the camera. And so when you see their face, it looks like you're looking at them. That would be my number one thing. You want it to kind of appear like you're making eye contact. And then any kind of notes or whatever, I would put in a window right next to that. So even when I'm writing notes, it still kind of looks like I'm looking at them and paying attention to them. But you can certainly say like, hey, I'm just going to be like typing up some notes as we go, if that's okay. But you want to make sure that it feels like you're making eye contact with them as much as possible. Not like super staring mode. Like you don't want to like, gaze lovingly into their eyes or anything like that. Like you don't want to be creepy about it, but just, that you're approximately looking in their direction as part of that interview. So those would be a couple of tips. As far as like dress code, do you wear a ball cap? I wouldn't. I would actually dress business casual the same as you would for an in-person interview. Just because you're at home doesn't mean you got to be in sweatpants and a tank top or something like that. Like dress the part. You still need to impress them to some degree. Be yourself. So wear what's comfortable for you, but it should be business casual if you're interviewing. That's kind of my fallback and my go-to. Would I even wear a shirt like this with stripes on it? I probably wouldn't. I would probably wear just a solid color shirt. But again, that's my own preference. But I wouldn't wear a hat. Like you don't want to distract them from things. And so you need to be yourself, but you also need to be professional about it too. So business casual would be the way to go. And then just make sure you're speaking clearly as much as possible. And if you start to notice, that they're asking you, hey, could you repeat that? That kind of like got a little bit garbled. Maybe it's a bandwidth issue that you need to be aware of. You can always ask them like, hey, I know we've been talking for a couple minutes and we've seen each other's faces. Like just to make the audio better, would it be okay if I turn off my video for a few minutes just to make sure that the audio is coming through? Most of them will be like, yeah, that'd be fine to try for a little while. Some things though, they still want to see your face. They still want to know that, you're still there. But sometimes you can kind of adjust the bandwidth that you use. Like I want to give less bandwidth to my video and I want to give more bandwidth to my audio. So check the software that you use and see whether that's a possibility. Other things, home networking, like home routers and so on, sometimes have something called quality of service or QoS. See if there's a setting in that for teleconference software. And what it does is it prioritizes the packets of information that your computer is sending to the internet, where it says, hey, this packet of data that I'm sending contains video and audio, so it needs more priority to process this instead of that file that's being downloaded or some other connection thing that's going on. And so you can check for those kinds of things as well. Sometimes that can speed things up. Worst case scenario, if your bandwidth is kind of lousy, you can go find another location. I would not do an interview at like a coffee shop because generally there's a lot of background noise for something like that. And so you do want to be careful, again, with distractions. You just don't want to be super distracting. Like Riker, who wanted to come and visit. Come on, get up here and visit. Say hi to everybody. So yeah, just try not to be super distracting during the interview. So I would recommend not doing it at a coffee shop. If you can find like the quiet corner of like a bookstore, like a Barnes and Noble or whatever. Like try to find some place that's going to have bandwidth, like a library, but you don't want to be super loud and noisy either, because interviews are going to go for an hour, maybe several hours, and you don't want to be that person in the corner of the back of the store and have the store say, excuse me, you need to, keep your voice down kind of thing. You don't want that to happen during an interview and go, oh, sorry, I actually have to leave here and find somewhere else to continue the interview. That's also super embarrassing. So, if you need a place with better bandwidth, try to arrange that like way ahead of time, or just let them know, hey, you know what, my bandwidth at home is a little shaky. I'm going to try to arrange for, hanging out at a library or something, just so that they're aware of what's going on. It's okay to tell them that kind of stuff. Hey, thanks for watching. I love helping people out with interview prep, and I hope this video helped you in some way. If you found this Q&A useful, please consider subscribing. You can follow me on Twitch as well for the live stream twice a week. Check out techinterview.guide/streaming for more information. I also have a daily email series that you can subscribe to on the website. There are never any ads, and when you finish the series, I scrub your information out of my database permanently. Finally, if you have a question that you'd like answered on the stream, you can find my contact info on techinterview.guide. I prefer LinkedIn or email. If you leave your question in a YouTube comment, it might take me longer to find it. But I'll see you next time.